This is Calm AF, a podcast for humans who are hard on themselves. A podcast for the overthinkers, people pleasers, perfectionists, and overachievers. I'm Kristen Finch, and I'm going to teach you how to quiet that incessant negative chatter in your head. Because you know what a person with a calm mind can do? Anything they want. Grab your coffee, gorgeous soul, because today's the day you get Calm AF. Hello, gorgeous soul. Welcome to Calm AF. I'm really excited. To talk about our topic today, but something really wonderful just happened. You might not think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. I am very, very excited right now. I was trying to just calm myself down, but I'm not. My energy is so excited. So I'm just going to have to share the story of what just happened. You might get to the end of the story and be like, what is happening? What is her deal? It's okay. So we had to take my car in. It started making this very strange sound. So we took it in and we were on our way home and we grabbed the mail and we walked in, Dave and I, and he's going through all the mail, sorting it out. And he's like, oh boy, he's like, you're going to be so excited. And he hands me an envelope, and on it, it says jury summons. Okay. I know this is not a lot of, it's not, some of you are listening, you're like, my worst nightmare. This has been my dream since I turned 18. I didn't care about most of the other things. I was just like, I can be on a jury. I don't know really why. I mean, I do know why. Because it's totally, Dave was like, you're going to make lifelong friends and it's going to be the most exciting thing. I'm just so excited. I'm a very curious person. I like looking at things. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but I have always wanted to be on a jury. So 18 until it was probably 10 years ago, maybe a little less. So maybe late 30s, 37, 38 years old, I was summoned for jury duty back in Illinois. And this was a classic. Okay, so I was very, very excited then too, probably just as excited, maybe more than I am today. And so I'm getting all, the day finally gets there. And it's basically Dave was like, well, have a great day. Off to my first day of kindergarten. I was so excited. And I get there and I check in and I go sit in the room with all the other people there for jury selection. And we're sitting there and we're sitting there and we're sitting there and it's taking forever. They're not calling people back yet the way they told us they were going to. And so we're all just kind of sitting there and all of a sudden the bailiff walks in to the room and he says, you guys, it's just going to be a few more minutes. Hang tight. We have something kind of happening. So just hang tight. So he leaves. We all wait a little longer, kind of wondering what is happening. So maybe a half hour later, the bailiff comes back in the room and he's like, ladies and gentlemen, I have some amazing news. He's like, I have been a bailiff for 40 years or something, his whole career. And I have never, ever, not once, ever seen this happen. So the lawyers have settled all of the cases for today out of court. You're all dismissed. And everyone stands up and starts cheering. And I'm like, no, I want to be on a jury. Are you sure? Do you want me to come back tomorrow? Oh my gosh, I was devastated. I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. It's this is all I've ever wanted. So I was very excited today to get the jury summons because, again, it's still my dream. I still want to see this through. I want to be on a jury really badly. So everyone cross your fingers for me. I actually have a lot of clients who are lawyers, or I have had a lot of clients in the past who are lawyers. And I remember asking one of my clients, I was like, so if I ever do get summoned, I'm like, how would I get on the jury? What are you looking for? And she's like, Kristen, I would totally pick you. And I was like, well, because you know me. She's like, no. She's like, you'll be picked. I was like, oh my God, do you think so? Thank you. Thank you for saying that. She was like, I don't know if it's a good thing, but we would totally pick you. Okay. I'm sure half of you are like, she is bonkers. That's okay. We all have our weird dreams, don't we? So I will keep you informed. And in January, I will be letting you know how jury duty went this time. I really hope I get picked. Okay. Had to get that out. Now we can move on. We can move on to today's episode. We are on part 7 of the Calm AF Life series. Now, in part 6, I talked about that future self path and how to think about the journey. Okay. Now, today I'm going to teach you actually how to get aligned with your future self. I was talking to a client the other day and we were talking about the Future Self Workshop. So this past weekend, I hosted the Future Self Workshop for Calm AF Lifers. This was the bonus for joining early. And she was telling me that when she told her husband that she wasn't going to go to their family brunch on Sunday because she was doing the Future Self Workshop, he rolls his eyes and goes, "Oh, future self. Tell me what my future holds." Like really snarky and sarcastic. And she got so mad. And she said that they actually kind of got in a big fight. Like he was obviously trying to backpedal, but she was like, this is a thing. Like every time I am working on something for myself, he belittles me. He belittles coaching, even though it's been the only thing that has ever worked for her. And every time she tries to share something with him, he kind of reacts in this way, like poo-poos it. And so I said to her, I was like, listen, first, every second you spend trying to convince him to agree with you or to be on board with however you've chosen to take care of yourself, to live your life, is a second spent not living your life. It's a second spent unaligned with your future self, right? Your future self doesn't convince. Your future self is just unbothered when someone doesn't get it, when someone doesn't agree with you. Because it's not their life, it's yours. It doesn't matter what they think. We just want them to agree with us because it feels better. So second, I told her, the only reason you feel desperate for him to agree with you is because your past self needed everyone to be okay and happy. In order for you to feel worthy, you needed everyone to agree with everything that you did. And your past self couldn't handle it when someone judged her. Like this version of you can, this future self version of you can handle it. And the third thing, right? Just less convincing, more showing. Sometimes when we just stick to what we're working on and we don't worry about what other people are thinking, they will open their minds when they see what is actually changing, right? When you're like, oh shit, it's really, she's different now, right? You want to spend less time convincing or worrying about him and spend more time aligned and making future self moves. So I told her all of that. Because here's the thing. It's like when people see the difference, they will either shut up, they will want in, or they will like push back harder. And then you just know, like, oh, this person doesn't want me to change. I wonder why. Right? It was funny because I was like, I think she felt bad. She was like, don't take offense, please don't. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't at all. I'm like, I honestly feel sad for your husband and really anyone else. Like, I feel sad for anyone who doesn't take time to learn how to align with their future self because all they're doing, like poo-pooing it or belittling it, all they're doing is wasting their time. They're wasting their life when they could be making steps towards their future self, towards their goals, right? Every time you set a goal, every time you make a decision, take action, make a plan to do something different without being aligned with your future self, you are making that plan, that decision, that action from your current self's thoughts and stories and patterns, which means you're just recreating whatever you have now. Like, yeah, sometimes we make small little changes just because we take different actions or we change the external circumstances, but really, you're trying to create something different using the same thoughts you used to get here. Do you see? You are making decisions based on what you've already experienced, based on what your current self knows. And you're trying to change from that place, right? If you want to really make a change in your life, really feel calm AF, be able to align with your calm AF future self, for good, for real, and for life, you must figure out how to align with your future self so that you know how to make those kinds of decisions from that higher level thinking, from unlearning those stories, from stopping the old patterns. Right? It feels very obvious to me. Does it feel obvious to you? Like, to me, my mind kind of can't wrap my head around it. Like, how are you missing this? But doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It would be like if I wanted to learn how to speak French, so I enroll in French class, but instead of like learning from the teacher, I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to ask Johnny, this other kid in the class who's also brand new to speaking French. I'm just going to have him teach me. Like, your current self can't teach you what your future self knows. You have to go to the future self. All right. All right, let's jump in. I'm 2 stories in and we haven't started yet. All right, I'm going to take you through this aligning with your future self visualization exercise that I use to help my clients meet, get to know, and align with their future self. And there's really just 3 parts to this exercise. 1, do a future self normal day visualization. 2, find the current self thoughts that are blocking you from creating that day. And 3, ask your future self for support. So let's walk through it. The first step is doing a future self normal day visualization. You just need to visualize what you want. And so how I normally do this, I have you think about 3 to 5, even 10 years in the future. And what you're doing is you're going to be visualizing what you want your day to look like, how your day feels, what's the same as it is now, what's different. And there's no right or wrong way to do this, but here's what I have found is like the easiest way to access this. I suggest that you visualize your current self, like you right now, sitting in this comfy chair in a movie theater. Okay, and there's a huge screen in front of you, and the movie that is playing is a day in the life of your future self. And it's not a special day. It's not like a day that you won the lotto or you're on a, luxurious vacation. It's just a normal like Wednesday, 3, 5, 10 years from now. Okay, so like the first scene is you're like just waking up at home. You're getting up. Maybe you're going to work. You're just moving through a normal day, but you're watching it as your future self who has already created the life that you want to create. So again, I like to go 3 to 5 years out into the future, but you are welcome to play with that timeline. So as you're watching this day in the life of your future self, you start from the minute you wake up and you move through your entire day. The first thing you're going to notice is your bed. How does it feel? Your bedroom. What do you notice? What are you wearing to sleep in? What are your pajamas? What are the sounds you hear? What are the smells that you smell? Like, make it a sensory experience. Notice what you notice. And then you get up out of bed. What does your future self do next? What does your morning routine look like? What are the things that are the same as they are now? What are the things that are different? And then what? Like, you just walking yourself through the day. Do you go to work? Do you leave the house? Do you get ready for work and leave the house? Is it a paying job? Is it a paying job? Is it the same job you have right now? Right? Do you go to an office? Do you stay home? Do you volunteer? Do you not have a paying job? Do you stay home with your kids or do you volunteer? Do you have leisurely lunches? What does your normal day look like? And you pay attention to what's on the calendar, right? Like, what does a typical day look like? A typical week look like? What does it look like on the weekends? What does your future self do for fun? What do they do during their downtime? What did they spend their time doing? Right? Because your future self, remember, is living a life you genuinely enjoy, spending time with people you genuinely enjoy, and spending your time doing things you genuinely enjoy. That's what you're creating in this future self visualization. So you're paying attention to all the details that you can. What do you eat? What do the dishes that you eat on look like? What does your kitchen look like? All of the things. What clothes are in your closet? What does the rest of your house look like? What does your future self see on an ideal, typical day? Who do you see? And then you get closer to the evening. What does that evening routine look like? What time does your future self go to bed? You go all the way from the beginning to the end of just a typical day, but in the life of your future self. And here's what you need to remember as you move through this part of the exercise. The point of this part of the future self alignment is just to notice, not judge. Okay, I want you to remember that mantra. Notice, not judge. This part of the exercise is where you really want to just get out of your head and let your imagination go. Instead of asking yourself, is this possible? Is this likely? How am I ever going to do that? Should I even be wanting that? Don't do that to yourself. Like, just let yourself go there. Just notice what you notice. I joked on Sunday when we were in the Future Self workshop, I was joking with the Calm AF Lifers. I was like, listen, if when you were peeking into the closet of your future self, the thing that you noticed was like, there's a giant yellow Big Bird costume, like, you don't need to spend time being like, well, why would that be? What is that? You just notice it without judging it, right? Because here's the thing, your future self is just trying to send you information through this movie, right? It's trying to send you messages from the future. And sometimes because you're so used to only letting yourself want something, if you know that it's definitely possible, that you probably can do it, or you know that you already know how to do it, you miss the messages of, hey, like the Big Bird costume might be actually indicating you need to just lighten up a little bit, right? Maybe your future self is trying to tell you the message of have more fun, be more silly. Or maybe the message is, hey, don't be afraid to be seen, right? You don't miss Big Bird walking into the room. What you see in this ideal day isn't going to be a literal interpretation of what your life is going to look like. So don't worry about being specific. It's your future self communicating to you what your future life is going to feel like, right? So you go through the ideal day, noticing everything, writing everything down. Then we move on to part 2 of the alignment exercise. This is what I call the current self eval. In the current self eval, you are back in your current day life and you are thinking about what you just saw, the movie that you just watched. And you are going to find all the thoughts you have about it. Okay, so your current self has a lot of thoughts about how to make this future self life happen. So here's how you find all the thoughts. You write down, I want this future self life, but, and then you just let your brain go wild. You list everything your current self brain is offering you. I don't know how. I don't know if that's what I should do. I don't know if it's a good idea. I don't know if it's the right idea. I don't know where to start. I don't think it's even possible. How would I ever make that happen? Right? It's too much. I should just be happy with what I have now. I'm going to make people mad if I make those changes. Okay. You're just looking for everything that your current self brain has, and you're going to write it all down. Okay. You're going to look at that list and you're going to find the thoughts that you feel are the most true. And these are going to be probably the ones that you say to yourself a lot. Well, I would like to do that, but I don't know how. Well, I would like to do that, but it seems too hard. Well, I would like to do that, but, right? You're just going to find the most common thoughts that feel the most true. Because now you have the most valuable information. You know exactly what's going to stop you from manifesting this future self life, right? What your brain is trying to tell you is like, oh, it's the logistics that I can't figure out, right? I don't have the money for a house like that, or I would need to find a totally different job, or I would need to leave this relationship if that's what my day is going to look like. Don't worry about the external circumstance. The number one thing that is stopping you right now from manifesting the life that feels how you want it to feel are these thoughts. That's really all you need to know. That's the most valuable information you have now. The thought, I don't know how, will shut down your dreams. The thought, it hasn't worked for me before, so it probably won't work for me in the future, will stop you from trying. Okay, the reason you haven't been relentlessly committed to your future self path is not because you aren't strong enough, or you don't know how, or you don't have enough willpower. It's because you're thinking really shitty thoughts that shut you down and keep you from moving forward. But now you know. No big deal. You know the thoughts that are going to keep you stuck so you can unlearn them. All right, so now we know what a day in the life of your future self looks like, and we know the thoughts you are currently thinking that are keeping you from creating that future self life. Now it's time to head back to the theater. But this time you're not going to be watching a movie. This time we're having a little interview. Okay? Your future self walks in the room and sits with you, current self you, in the theater. And then I come in, or some other person comes in to interview your future self. And this interview isn't like a long where you just think your future self isn't like thinking about the future self already knows the answers to these questions. So this interview is very rapid fire. Okay. So I would ask your future self, how did you stay so relentlessly committed? How do you get through hard days instead of shutting down or numbing out? What do you do when your past self thoughts get loud? Who did you need to set boundaries with? How did you move past these limiting thoughts so you could keep showing up? What do you do? How do you soothe your nervous system? What feelings did you have to really learn how to handle in a mature way so they didn't keep shutting you down? Right? And I want you to remember, you aren't asking the questions. Your current self isn't asking the questions. The interviewer is. And you aren't answering the questions. Your future self is. You are just observing the interviews. You are listening to your future self's answers. And here's why this part is so important. It's because once you're aligned with your future self, once you know the answers to these questions, you can start making empowered decisions, setting aligned goals, and taking actions towards the life you want from your future self mindset. Okay, what most people do is they are like, oh, I want to create this future life. And they start trying to make decisions and set goals and make plans from their current self's brain. But like I said before, all you're doing here is you're recreating what you already have. It might look different, right? You might be in a new job, but you have the same thoughts with you. You might be with a new person, but you have the same thoughts with you, right? Your current self's brain got you here, and that's great. But in order to create something new or something different, you have to think something different. The mind, the body, and the bubble that got you here is not the same mind, body, and bubble that will get you there. All right, so that's it. That's the exercise. It's so simple, right? So simple. We had the most fun doing this on Sunday. We're actually going to meet again this week just to go over questions. And the really cool thing about this is that one of the women at the workshop this weekend was like, oh my gosh, it was so clear. Like my future self's answers to those questions were so clear when you were interviewing her and I was just watching. Like, I need to spend time with that again and I need to do it again. And I was like, well, the great news is we're going to do this every single month in Calm AF Life. The end of every month, we're going to be doing this future self-alignment exercise. Not just because the repetition and support is the only way to create these sustainable changes, but also because of the daily accountability. Like, you're going to be moving so rapidly between your past self, your current self, your future self, your past self, your current self, your future self. You're going to be like, oh, wait, I'm not really thinking that obstacle thought anymore. Oh, wait, I'm already showing up differently here. What's next? Right? Instead of like, whoops, that's what I was going to do and I forgot all about it. That's why I made the accountability part of this course, right? So that we can connect to your future self again and again and again instead of forgetting it and then doing it next year again. Okay. So at the end of every single month, we're going to reconnect to that future self and set new goals or continue on with the goals or change the goals from that future self's mindset. That is what we're going to be talking about in parts 8 and 9 of this Calm AF Life series. So the next 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about the goals, the resolutions, how to set future self goals, how to manifest those goals, and how to do it in a way that you have no doubt if you can achieve it, right? Because it's not dependent on external factors. It's not like, well, if this happens or if this happens, then maybe I can make that happen. Nope. You have all of the control over these soul goals. It's such a better way to set goals. And you can actually achieve them and it doesn't feel like shit. It's so great. So those future self goals are coming up for the next 2 weeks. Now, the doors to Calm AF Life are currently closed while we are doing some housekeeping. We're catching up after we welcomed so many gorgeous souls into the program over the last couple of weeks. So, like I said, this is a forever program. It's always going to be available. It's just that the doors are just closed right now. So if you want to join and want to know as soon as the doors open again, just get on the wait list. And it will be probably the end of this month, the end of December, or the beginning of January. But if you get on the list, for sure, you will hear when that opens, and you definitely want to be in this program. You definitely want to be here. I was like, okay, well, we have our first workshop. This'll really show like what's the feel, what's the vibe. And we finished and I was like, oh shit. I was like, this is it. This is the answer. Like on the first workshop, a bunch of people were like, I have never been this clear. And there was one person who couldn't even be there live. Like she just watched the recording and then texted me after. And she was like, Kristen, if this was the only thing you gave us in Calm AF Life and we just kept repeating this every month, she's like, it would be worth it just to do this over and over again. I'm like, well, perfect, because we are going to do that. It really is such a great investment. So get on that wait list. The link is in the show notes. All right, everyone cross your fingers for me about this jury duty. I'll still talk to you a few times before it, but maybe thoughts and prayers, send all your good vibes. Kristen Finch gets on the jury. All right, gorgeous souls. I love you so much. I will see you next time. Thanks for listening to Calm AF. If you love this podcast, you will love Calm AF Life. It's basically a live version of this podcast, taking everything we talk about here, and instead of just consuming it, we apply it. So Calm AF isn't something you aspire to be, it becomes who you are. There's a course teaching you the foundational components of the Calm AF life, including nervous system regulation, feeling your feelings, boundaries, and mindset shifts. Then, since brains love to get new information, but we aren't really wired to change, there's the accountability aspect of the program. Daily, weekly, and monthly reminders to keep showing up for the Calm AF life you're creating. And once you're in, you are in. You get lifetime access to all of it for as long as the program exists. Go to KristenFinch.com/CalmAFLife to join today.